Can we all please agree to just boycott the new Harry Potter?
The Harry Potter reboot series is completely unnecessary, and the newest casting proves that.
So I'm seeing these photographs. It looks like Martin, I could be wrong, wearing a Nick Frost head. And he's wearing the exact same costume that we designed for Hagrid. Part of me was like, what's the point?
Picture this, you're transported back to Hogwarts and all the nostalgia comes flooding back. The candles are floating, the sorting hat is waiting, Harry Potter is about to walk into the Great Hall, but something is very, very off. Harry doesn't have the same face, Ron doesn't have the same voice, Hermione isn't Hermione, and Snape, well, his casting alone has pretty much broken the internet, because this isn't the Harry Potter you know and love. It's the reboot. Yes, you heard that right. We are now getting a shiny, expensive TV remake of all 7 books. Each season will be dedicated to one book, and it will go on for about 10 years, which is just insane. Now I know what you're thinking. The movies literally ended 15 years ago, and Harry Potter is still everywhere. And yeah, I know, crazy, right? You have the merch, the theme parks, the obsessed Potterheads. Harry Potter never actually left, so why are we back here again with a whole new cast? I feel like the only person excited about this is Tom Felton, but that's because he's been stuck in his Draco era for about 2 decades now. I wouldn't be surprised if that man was outside the studio right now with his blonde wig on, just begging for a chance to be in the show. At this point, I bet he'd happily take the role of broomstick number 3 if it meant having a cameo. But apart from him, the majority of Harry Potter fans and the general public were absolutely livid at this announcement, calling it an unnecessary cash grab, which, I mean, they're not wrong. But I think Warner Bros. Expected this response, and they tried to lure fans back in by promising that it was going to be a faithful adaptation of the books, and honestly, it did kind of work at first. As beloved as the movies are, they did leave out and alter a lot of major details from the books, way more than people even realize, which I promise we will go over later in this video. But that tiny shred of hope that Warner Bros. Gave them was just completely torn away as the casting announcements started rolling in, and in an instant, optimism turned to dread as people realized that they had been completely lied to. There is just...
That guy looked so mad when he was looking at that bro he was started pointing at the camera. He was mad as fuck.
It's just completely torn away as the casting announcements started rolling in, and in an instant, optimism turned to dread as people realized that they had...
Bro, he's scolding whoever's watching this video right now.
Been completely lied to. There is just so much about this remake that people don't know, so today we're gonna break everything down from the good, the bad, and the very controversial. Okay, let's just dive into this head first and start with the one thing that everyone wants to know. Who on earth is playing Harry, Ron, and Hermione? On September the 9th, 2024, HBO announced that they were doing an open casting call for the main Golden Trio. It specifically asked for children aged between 9 and 11 who are residents of the UK and Ireland.
Come on.
I, for one, was so relieved to hear that they were looking for UK performers, considering that there was a lot of speculation that they were gonna turn the show American. Thank God they didn't, so everyone can breathe a little bit. For now. The announcement also added that they had a commitment to inclusive and diverse casting and asked that for each role, agents submit qualified performers without regard to ethnicity, sex, disability, sexual orientation, and gender identity. It's safe to say that this definitely ruffled the feathers of some angry fans who apparently expected them to just clone the original cast. And for the record, before anyone comments, oh, but they promised a faithful adaptation. Yes, I know, but wait till you hear how the books actually describe these characters, which, spoiler alert, is very different from the movie versions. 7 months and 30,000 auditions later, HBO finally announced our Golden Trio. Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter, Alistair Stout as Ron Weasley, and Arabella Stanton as Hermione Granger. For me personally, I was pretty happy with this casting, especially Dominic as Harry, who I think just looks so perfect. But to my surprise, this announcement was extremely divisive online in some of the most stupid ways possible. Their first target was Dominic as Harry because despite how perfect he looks, fans were devastated at this one tiny detail: the color of his eyes. If you go on Twitter or Reddit right now, you'll see comment after comment whining about how he doesn't have the iconic green eyes from the books, which...
Bro, you can't even tell. What?
is hilarious considering Daniel Radcliffe didn't have green eyes either, and somehow the entire world managed to survive. Like, I'm a self-proclaimed hater, okay? I hate a lot of things and everyone knows it, but even for me, this was just such a ridiculous thing to be mad about. But on the other hand, the more I think about it, HBO kind of brought this onto themselves by claiming they were gonna be 100% faithful to the books. You can't just make a statement like that and then turn around and be just 99.9% faithful. No, you have to stick to your word. However, something I just can't excuse is the backlash of Arabella Stanton as Hermione Granger. For me, this casting was a win. She is young, talented, and from what I've seen, captures Hermione's book-accurate spirit. But of course, the backlash came in fast, with people nitpicking her looks and the color of her skin, which was apparently too dark for people's liking. But honestly, it's just baffling considering that her casting is more book-accurate than Emma Watson's was. In the books, Hermione Granger is described as having bushy brown hair, brown eyes, and large front teeth. And here's the thing, out of the entire Golden Trio, Hermione is the only one who actually has her skin color described in the books, and even then, it's only once after she goes on summer holiday and gets a bit of a tan. So the people claiming that it's not book accurate are just so loud and so wrong, and it's so sad to see how much hate these kids are getting online. Why are grown adults leaving hate comments about children online? Please make it make sense. But this is why I think this reboot was so incredibly risky, because for so many people, the original cast has become synonymous with the characters. So even if they cast someone who just looks slightly different, book accurate or not, people are still gonna have a problem with it. It's the reason why Alistair Stout, cast as Ron, got zero backlash, because he looks so similar to the original character. As soon as people saw him, everyone collectively went, yep, that's Ron Weasley. In fact, pretty much every cast member after this was received extremely well. Dumbledore, perfect. Hagrid, it's okay, not my favorite, but it's okay. McGonagall, outstanding. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have some breaking news. I've just gotten word that one of the main actors in the original film is coming back to reprise his role. Please welcome the return of Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy. No, I'm only joking, it's not Tom Felton. Draco will actually be played by someone called Lox Pratt, and again, it is just a spot-on casting. The returning actor is Warwick Davis as Professor Flitwick, and when I first heard this, I was really excited. Until I remembered how few roles there actually are for dwarf actors, especially after Disney's Snow White fiasco where they swapped out real performers for CGI dwarfs instead.
That's horrible.
I will never get over how ridiculous that was. I can only imagine how many dwarf actors were so excited at the announcement of this reboot, thinking that this was finally another role that they could potentially do, only to find out that it's the one role that goes to the original actor instead. It feels like they can never catch a break. But anyway, it is good casting and fans are happy about it, so I'll give them that. I honestly forgot just how many characters were in Harry Potter, so I actually can't go through them all, but just take my word for it when I say that it's pretty solid casting all around. The only thing that kind of confused me was just how young some of the characters looked compared to their movie counterparts, especially the casting of Molly Weasley, who just looks unbelievably young for a mum of 7 kids, the oldest being 20. But apart from that, everything seems to be pretty good. Until we get to Snape. A few months ago, it was announced that actor Papa Essiedu will be playing the role of Severus Snape in the new series. And from that point, they pretty much lost all the remaining fans that they had, which sounds mean, but I promise it's not for horrible reasons. The problem is, the people in charge of the show, Francesca Gardine and Mark Mylod, openly describe themselves as mega fans of the story and are committed to creating a truly faithful adaptation. But it's clear they haven't read a single one of the books, because Snape is probably the most described character in the series, with the main one being that he's pale. Deathly pale. This description is repeated multiple times throughout the book, so the casting of Papa Essiedu, a black man, really confused and angered fans who believed the promise of a faithful adaptation. The book also describes him as looking sickly and unpleasant with greasy black hair and a hooked nose. The kind of man you'd avoid sitting next to on the night bus. So does Papa fit this description? Absolutely not. He is just way too attractive for the role, like so far onto the other end of where the character should be. I just really don't understand the thought process behind this casting, and I can understand why fans are angry. But I want to make it clear that this opinion has absolutely nothing to do with hating diversity or him as a person, because he is a great actor. Like I said before, any slight difference from the original characters, whether in appearance, ethnicity, or overall portrayal, feels like a departure from the magical world that people grew up with. This resistance isn't rooted in hatred, although I know some of those voices do exist, as sad as it is, but for most people, it's because of the emotional attachment that they have to the story. Also, Snape is probably the worst character they could have chosen to change for a whole number of reasons. Firstly, Alan Rickman's portrayal of the character will forever be cemented not only in Hollywood, but also in the minds of everyone. It's such a distinct character, and his performance was so iconic that nobody will ever be able to live up to it. HBO knows this. Oh boy, do they know how iconic that character is, and they know that whoever they cast in the role will get backlash. So why would they make it worse for the actor by casting someone who looks the complete opposite? While the intention behind the diverse casting may be pure and promote inclusivity, the reality is that you've completely thrown him into a war zone, and I don't think it's fair on the actor at all. There is arguably a bigger reason why this casting is super problematic, and the best way I can explain it to you is by showing you this amazing creator's viral video.
But this casting is potentially problematic because in order for it to make sense that Snape is black, you have to not just change fundamental aspects of Snape's character, you have to change fundamental aspects of everybody's character. Here's the truth about being black. Whether we want to admit it or not, our skin color tells a story all by itself. They bullied Snape. Didn't James Potter have him levitating in the air, suspending from the air? Y'all are really gonna have James Potter essentially hanging this black man. It changes the way we view Harry when he's suspicious of the one black professor. This is a weird move.
So
Yeah,
as you can see,
weird.
this goes so much deeper than just a simple race swap, and I have a feeling that the people who made this decision didn't actually take the time to think it through. And speaking of decisions that spark controversy, it is impossible to talk about modern Harry Potter without addressing the giant Dementor hovering over it. J.K. Rowling's public reputation. Over the past several years, J.K. Rowling has been the subject of intense controversy due to her anti-transgender comments online. People were absolutely outraged when they found out that she was going to be an executive producer on the show, and they demanded that HBO make a statement about it. This is when the CEO of HBO, Casey Bloys, came out and basically said that they've been working with her for 25 years and nothing is going to change that. He goes on to say that no, Harry Potter is not going to be secretly infused with anything, which in other words means that the story isn't going to suddenly include anti-trans propaganda. He continues by saying, I think it's pretty clear that those are her personal political views. She's entitled to them, and if you want to debate her, you can go on Twitter. So HBO basically said, yes, JK is involved, but the story stays the story, and her personal opinions aren't the script.
Yeah, I think that is a crazy take. Regardless of what happens with the person, if that's her views or not, she's the one who didn't she create the whole story? That sounds crazy to be like, she doesn't deserve to do it because this and that. I get it though, she's anti this, anti that. That sucks, obviously you might not agree with it. I personally don't agree with most of it, but it's that's her book. That she's the one who created it. What are you doing? What are you talking about, bruh? Just because that doesn't make any sense at all.
It's the most PR answer imaginable, but honestly, what did people expect? JK could go and commit the most unthinkable crime imaginable, and HBO would still cling to her for life, because at the end of the day, none of this is about integrity, it's about cold, hard cash.
Alright, that that's true in some cases also, but I also would think about it as it's a boundary where it's regardless of the integrity, she's the one who created the book, she's the one who did this, did that, what are they gonna do? They can't just they kick her out, be like, yeah, sorry, we take your whole story, taking your book, womp womp. Doesn't seem, but the whole thing is a cash grab regardless. I mean, making a whole nother Harry Potter reboot is just insane. It's one of those movies where you just leave it, just let it be, maybe reboot it at the end of the century or something. I don't know. you don't have to keep rebooting stuff. Like, we're going through this like big era where it's like we remaster, we do this, we redo it. And, you know, some are really good, you know, like Dune is actually a really good, you know, because they actually have better quality nowadays, and they haven't done it since what, the 80s or 70s since they made those movies. So, you know, that was perfect when they made those. But, you know, certain movies, it's just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. The reason I back DC with restarting is because it's a superhero franchise where there's been so many movies and so many adaptations to the point where they haven't really solidified it to where this is the one. No, there's so many of them that they have to keep it going. That's how superhero movies work. Like, it always is like that. With Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, is always going to be like that. But, you know, with these type of movies, like even Lord of the Rings and it just like, come on, just let it do its thing for a little bit. It's not even been, you know, it's crazy to think it's been basically a decade and a half almost since the last movie, I'm pretty sure. But probably not even that. It's probably been 12 years, 13 years since the last Harry Potter movie. Just do what you have to do and wait a little bit. Wait like another decade or 2 decades. I don't know. Because, you know, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just a cash grab regardless, but I don't think throwing J.K. Rowling under the bus is part of what I don't get that. I don't understand it. Her beliefs and her life choices, whatever the fuck she wants to do, that's her. She's the one who created the book. You know, you like her story. Sometimes you have to separate the art from the person. That's sort of crazy when it comes down to certain things. Yeah, you don't do it, but it's like, it's her book, it's her story. Like, there's so many stories and books she's created, so where it's like you can't really, you know, get rid of her.
Harry Potter is a never-ending money machine for these studios, which is why it's so hard to believe that they actually care about this reboot in the way that they claim. To most people, including me, it just screams cash grab. But hey, for the sake of the argument, let's just pretend that they're gonna put effort into it, and if that's the case, we should probably go over some reasons why this reboot could work. Because as impossible as it sounds, there could actually be some upsides to this. One of the biggest arguments in favor of this reboot is the idea of giving each book its own season, which I have to say I'm kind of on board with. As a book lover, there is nothing that frustrates me more than when my favorite book gets crammed into a 2-hour movie. The amount of story that they have to cut just to fit the runtime, and more often than not, it just completely ruins the story. And I know that people like to claim that the Harry Potter films are perfect, but I don't think people realize just how much of the book's depth got lost in translation. Order of the Phoenix has 766 pages. 766! It's the longest book in the series, but somehow made the shortest film. Can someone please explain that to me? So now with this reboot, we're looking at potentially 8 to 10 hours per book instead of just the 2-hour films. Imagine seeing Hermione's campaign for House Elf rights as a fully fleshed out subplot, or exploring the Marauder's backstory in greater detail. There is just so much of the plot that the movies had to erase, so the world building potential of this reboot is just kind of exciting. But more than that, the series promises to include all the excluded characters from the film, such as Peeves the Poltergeist, Winky the House Elf, and Charlie Weasley. Yes, they removed an entire Weasley brother from the film. And then you have all the character development, which was pretty much non-existent. For example, Ginny Weasley in the books is a fantastic character. She's funny, talented, and so brave. But in the films, she was basically sidelined, with her big moment being tying Harry's shoelace. A show could finally give her the depth that she deserves. I also have a feeling that if the show does well, then there is huge potential for future spin-off shows. Imagine a show about the international schools, the Hogwarts founders, a Marauders prequel. The possibilities are honestly endless, and I have to say, that does make me kind of excited. But a part of me wonders why they didn't just do the spin-off shows in the first place, instead of remaking what was already done. Yeah, sure, the movies left out a lot of depth, but when you compare the impact of them, it really isn't comparable. If HBO came out and said they were releasing a Marauders prequel, Harry Potter fans would have absolutely lost their minds, and it would have been so popular. I just can't wrap my head around why they would want to start this new chapter by alienating so much of their fan base. It just doesn't make sense. They're acting like the original movies are decade-old flops that desperately needed to be revamped, when that couldn't be the furthest thing from reality. The last film came out just 14 years ago. 14, and they're trying to justify it by saying that they're bringing it to a new generation. Are kids these days suddenly allergic to movies made over 14 years ago? What is going on? Harry Potter is arguably the most successful and cherished franchise of all time, and it seems to just be growing in popularity each year. I live in London and you literally cannot escape it. Nearly every store has merchandise and you have the hundreds of thousands of people who go to the studio tour. So what happens when this new show is released? Are they just gonna swap out everything they have so that this new cast can be the face of the brand? I mean, it's just ridiculous. The original performances were so iconic that they can never be topped or repeated. Well, apart from Warwick Davis repeating his role, but apart from him, Alan Rickman, Maggie Smith, Ralph Fiennes, Helena Bonham Carter. These actors weren't just playing roles, they solidified themselves as those characters, and that will never ever be changed. There is a reason why Daniel Radcliffe struggled to get roles after the films, because no one can see him as anything but Harry Potter. That's how culturally iconic these roles are. The bottom line is, Harry Potter just doesn't need to be remade, and I don't need to go on some big tangent about how good the films are for you to know that. You already know. Everyone already knows. And sure, I can just brush off this reboot and pretend like it doesn't exist, but I don't think people understand just how damaging this show could be to Harry Potter's legacy. No matter if it turns out good, it's always going to be riddled with controversy and drama, just like it is now. So for the next 10 years, people are going to be associating Harry Potter with that messy TV reboot instead of the original films. For example, just look at Game of Thrones, which absolutely captivated the world every single year, until that dreadful final season. Long story short, they completely rushed and put no effort into their final season, which ruined almost every storyline and character arc. So although the earlier seasons are some of the best TV ever made, this final season kind of overshadows it, and now anytime anyone recommends the show, it always comes with a warning label. I just have such a strong feeling that this is gonna be the same thing for Harry Potter, and I can already predict future conversations having the exact same warning. I'm gonna end the video telling you what Chris Columbus said about the reboot, who, if you don't know who this is, Chris Columbus is the director of some of the original films.
So I'm seeing these photographs of, now it looks like Martin, I could be wrong, wearing a Nick Frost head, walking down the streets of London, and I'm thinking, and he's wearing the exact same costume that we designed for Hagrid. Part of me was like, what's the point? I thought it was going to be, I thought the costumes were good, I thought everything was going to be different, but it's more of the same.
And I think what's the point is the perfect conclusion for this entire thing, really, because what is the point? The images of the story and the characters are burned into our brains for a reason. When people picture Harry, Ron, Hermione, Snape, Dumbledore, they're picturing the movies. That's the kind of magic that HBO is messing with here, and no amount of faithfulness will ever be able to recreate it. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions on this reboot. I'm so excited to see everyone's point of view. Are you excited for it? Are you dreading it? Let me know. And if you made it this far, I want you to do something a little different for me and comment what Hogwarts house you're in, because I'm in Gryffindor and I would love to see what everyone's in. I think it tells you so much about a person. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for 50,000 subscribers. I literally can't believe it. My mind can't comprehend it, but just know that I am so grateful and I really appreciate all your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
No.
Can we all please agree to